Good morning, guys. Now I'm going to kind of jump in straight with this. Today's video isn't really going to be kind of the norm. This video is going to be probably quite distressing in certain parts. From 1975 to 1979, Cambodia was ruled by the Khmer Rouge regime, which was run by a guy called Pol Pot, who was a communist dictator. Essentially, he was paranoid that he was going to lose control of the country, so anyone who was seen as someone with intelligence, like lawyers, doctors, anyone with glasses, silly things like that, they were taken away and were brought to the prisons and also to the killing fields and were basically executed. Out of 8 million people, 3 million people were killed. If you watch the video to the end, there might be something which you'll learn, if not particularly enjoy. Right now we're in S21, which is in the centre of Phnom Penh, and this was formerly a school, which was turned into a prison. This particular structure that you can see behind me here, this was originally like a piece of exercise equipment for the children when this was a school. So you used to have ropes going up and down it for the kids to climb, just like you would have in schools nowadays. But they changed it into a piece of equipment to torture the prisoners. So they used to hang them from it, their hands behind their backs, and pull them. And they basically hang them until they lost consciousness. And eventually when they did, they would then put them head first into these bowls, which were filled with dirty water, with excrement and other bits and bobs that they would use to actually fertilise them, and that would regain their consciousness and they'd just begin the process all over again. These rooms here are filled with photos of the victims. So basically what happened was there was a revolution in 1973, and this new order came in. People were really happy because they thought it was going to bring a new age of happiness in, because they'd suffered quite a lot of heavy bombing during the Vietnam War. But as soon as they came in, they started pushing everyone out of the cities into the countryside, and basically told them to massively up the production of rice. So all these people from the cities had no experience with growing rice, so it kind of didn't end up very well for them. But anyone who was considered an intellectual would be considered to be a threat to the regime, and so they would be executed. Basically they would kill the whole family. So if the dad was an engineer, for instance, they would kill the wife, all of the children, and they would just kill everyone. Feel kind of like what's happened here, and you can kind of tell there's a really somber atmosphere. Nobody's talking, everybody's just walking through, looking at the photos and just kind of taking in everything that's been said, which is really hard. People were brought here and were put under interrogation, where they were tortured into giving confessions that they were conspiring with KGB, CIA, basically just conspiring against the regime. Now obviously these people were tortured for months on end. They were starved, they were beaten, to the point where in that end anyone would give a confession. It was just like a sport for them by the looks of it. They just didn't even look like they could keep up with the amount of people they were bringing through here and killing. It's just really sad to think what actually happened here, and I'd really recommend getting the audio as well. Just pay a little bit extra because you get a lot of information. I think if you came here without the audio, it would just be a lot of pictures. The audio was actually done really well by a guy who actually survived here. Between 12 and 20,000 people actually came through here. There are only actually 12 documented survivors, of which he is one. And he kind of tells the story really well as you go through. It's not easy to listen to, but he tells it very well, so definitely get the audio. These are the rooms where people would be kept prisoner just to kind of give you an idea of the scale. That's me off from one side to the other. These canisters here would effectively be the prisoners' toilets. The prisoners would be interrogated, and if they didn't give the answers that the guards wanted, they would be forced to drink the contents.
In the evening, if they moved and the chains rattled, they would just be tortured again. So I think any excuse they got to torture them, they just did it. Also, they were forced to wear the same clothes all the time, so they were ridden with bed bugs. So as long as obviously being tortured, when they weren't being tortured, they were being bitten. This barbed wire wasn't always here. This was put here after one of the prisoners committed suicide from jumping from the top floor. So obviously they didn't want them to have a quick, easy way out, so they put this here. One of the other prisoners, as he was writing his confession, also stabbed himself in the neck with the pen. And another prisoner got the, like the oil from the lamp and tipped that over his face. So obviously it was a means to an end for them. They just wanted it to be over, and the fact that they had to kill themselves to do that says it all, really.
As well as anyone who is considered to be an intellectual or is educated, they also outlawed any form of religion. So the traditional religions like Buddhism, monks were murdered, temples were ruined, and people were basically told only to believe in the regime. We'd just been in a room there which was filled with the remains, like skulls. What I didn't know was that this place, as well as being a prison and a place of torture, this is actually where they started just burying the bodies, and the killing fields, which are spread all over Cambodia, they were introduced when they ran out of room to put people here, so they literally couldn't keep up with how many people they were killing and had to ship them out and put them somewhere else. But nobody actually really knew about this place until they were toppled in 1979. Nobody really knew what was kind of going on here. I suppose it'd be like the gas chambers, and the horrificness was only really discovered after it all ended. This particular man was one of the fortunate, very few survivors of the prison. Meet him here outside. Very nice to meet you.
So here's another survivor. Unfortunately, his wife was killed here. Heart's in my throat at the minute. Like, they're smiling and then they're happy, and it's just like, how can you go back to normal life after done something like that? But I think you have to, don't you?
One of the survivors basically says that he's come to acknowledge the torturers and the guards, and basically come along with thinking of they were prisoners themselves, really. Like, they were forced to do that, you know, they were under this oppression as well. It was either kill and torture or be killed and tortured yourself. So, you know, he's kind of said if he was put in that position, how is he to condemn them? So next we're going on to the killing fields, and originally I was going to plan on putting this all in one video, but I think it's just too much, so I'm going to put that in and make this a two-part video. So if you want to catch the next bit, just watch the next video now.